Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking what might just be the most pervasive yet completely hidden crisis in modern love. We're going to look at the undeniable data behind how our digital habits are fundamentally rewriting the rules of human connection and honestly, in many cases, quietly tearing it apart. Imagine a young couple sitting together in a dimly lit restaurant somewhere in America. They aren't arguing, they're not fighting, they're actually not even talking much. Both of them are just staring at the glowing blue light of their individual screens. Physically, they're inches apart, right? But psychologically, they might as well be on different planets. It looks totally normal. In fact, it's become so normal that most of us barely even notice it anymore. But beneath that completely ordinary moment lies a profound social transformation.
Okay, let's dive right into this with a statistic that is, well, it's staggering. A massive 71% of people admit they spend more personal time with their smartphone than with their romantic partner. Just let that sink in for a second. The device in your pocket is literally monopolizing the time that historically belonged to the person sitting right next to you.
Which brings us to a grand paradox. Have you ever noticed something strange about our modern world? We live in the richest, absolutely most connected society in human history, yet millions of Americans have literally never felt more alone. Every single day, people swipe through hundreds of faces, they scroll through thousands of photos, and receive an endless barrage of notifications. Yet, loneliness is rising, trust is harder to find, and relationships are feeling incredibly fragile. It's almost like the technology that promised to bring us all together is quietly teaching us how to drift apart.
Section 1. The psychology of the swipe. The illusion of unlimited choice. To figure out why this massive disconnect is happening, we have to look at a profound shift in how we actually form romantic bonds. For most of American history, we operated on what we can call the old model. Relationships were deeply tied to community. You met through neighborhoods, churches, or mutual friends. The dating pool was limited, sure, but social accountability was incredibly strong. Marriage was embedded inside a much larger social structure. But over time, America shifted to the new model. Individualism took over. And eventually, technology arrived with an irresistible promise: unlimited choice. Your absolute perfect partner is just one swipe away. But here's the catch. Human psychology simply wasn't designed for unlimited alternatives. The more options we perceive, the harder it becomes to commit, simply because every choice carries this lingering fear of a better choice still waiting out there. Now, what's really wild is how the technology itself is actually engineered against us. It uses what psychologists call a variable ratio schedule of reinforcement. Sounds complicated, but it's the exact same psychological mechanism used by slot machines in Las Vegas. Every swipe or scroll is basically a gamble for a dopamine hit. And contrary to popular belief, dopamine isn't just about pleasure, it is the anticipation chemical. It's the maybe something better is coming chemical. By constantly triggering this system, dating apps and social feeds train our brains to hunt for novelty, which fundamentally devalues the steady, non-algorithmic partner sitting right next to us.
So here is the reality check. Algorithms absolutely profit from perfection and possibility, but reality always loses when it has to compete with imagination. Real partners get stressed. They have flaws. They need actual support. Real relationships require patience and compromise. But when we constantly compare our everyday, messy realities against the curated, perfect possibilities online, that constant comparison quietly steals our satisfaction. We stop asking, hey, can we build a life together? And we start asking, could I do better?
Section 2. Phubbing, the silent relationship killer. Let's move on to those everyday microaggressions that might seem completely normal but are quietly destroying intimacy. We finally have a name for the behavior we all see, and let's be real, likely all do: phubbing. It's a mashup of phone and snubbing. It basically means the act of ignoring a romantic partner in favor of a smartphone screen during face-to-face time. The data on how this invades our most private moments is genuinely shocking. Look at this. 76% of people check their phones in the morning before they even say good morning to the person lying right next to them. Apparently, the phone is the real significant other here. For women, that number actually hits 80%. According to the Pew Research Center, 51% of people say their partner is distracted by their phone while actively trying to have a real conversation. And perhaps most startling of all, 12% of people overall and 17% of women admit they have actually interrupted moments of physical intimacy or bedroom closeness just to check a phone notification.
Let's do a quick test right now. I call it the dinner table test. The data shows that 42% of people check their phones at the dinner table, yet only 18% of homes enforce a strict no-phone zone. I want you to drop a comment right now. Do you allow phones at the dinner table, or is it a complete deal breaker for you? Let's see how many of us are actually guilty of this one.
Section 3. The digital divorce data.
algorithms and dissatisfaction. We need to look at the hard statistical reality of what all this distraction does to long-term partnerships, and the research reveals a truly fascinating paradox. If you look at the broad numbers from the CDC, overall U.S. divorce rates are actually in a long-term decline. They're sitting at a low rate of 2.4 divorces per 1,000 people right now. So while roughly 40 to 42% of first marriages do end in divorce, U.S. divorce isn't exploding overall. However, while fewer marriages are ending across the board, more marriages are being heavily damaged by our digital habits.
Take a look at this whole phenomenon of the silent house. 30% of couples admit to texting or messaging each other while they are both at home in the exact same house, rather than just getting up and having a face-to-face conversation. Furthermore, 26% of couples have had full-blown arguments via text while sitting in the exact same building. It's crazy.
The impact this has on a marriage is undeniably clear. In a survey by the Institute for Family Studies, marital happiness sits at a really strong 81% for spouses who don't have to compete with a phone. But for FUG spouses, those whose partner is often scrolling on a screen when they'd rather talk, marital happiness absolutely plummets to just 59%. A phone sitting on the table can literally do what a third person can't, quietly break your marital happiness. In fact, peer-reviewed longitudinal data reveals that heavy baseline social media use directly predicts relationship dissatisfaction. Behaviors linked to social media conflict raise the likelihood of a complete relationship dissolution by a hazard ratio of 1.45. To put that simply, that is a 45% increase in the overall risk of a breakup. So how exactly does this sabotage happen? Well, Pew Research data shows that 23% of partnered adults feel jealous or unsure about their relationship simply because of how their partner interacts online. For younger adults ages 18 to 29, that jealousy jumps up to 34%. Global divorce surveys point to those sneaky people you may know algorithms, the ones that reconnect users with exes or old flames, as a massive catalyst for emotional infidelity. And a UNICEF study found almost half of young people have had severe arguments over something they saw on social media. It's honestly no wonder that 26% of couples dealing with poor phone control say their marriage may end in divorce.
Section 4, Reclaiming Human Connection, the antidote to distraction.
Okay, take a breath. This explainer doesn't have to end in total despair, because awareness changes everything. The couples who actually survive and thrive in the digital age aren't just luckier, they are intentional. Let's walk through some truly empowering steps to protect your connection. Step 1. Recognize that your attention is literally your most valuable resource. Where your attention goes, your relationship follows. Step 2. Create intentional technology boundaries. Step 3. Prioritize shared face-to-face experiences. And Step 4. Choose presence over distraction again and again. We really have to remember that human beings evolved in tribes, not timelines. We evolved in conversations, not comment sections.
I want to leave you with a thought that perfectly captures the heart of this whole issue. Love is not sustained by excitement alone. It is sustained by attention. Not attention from millions of strangers online, but attention from the real person sitting across the table, the person sharing your life. The greatest threat to relationships today isn't necessarily distance or conflict or even divorce itself. It's distraction. That quiet force stealing moments so gradually that we hardly even notice until years have passed.
So it all really comes down to this final lingering choice: the screen or each other. Are we willing to reclaim control of our attention before our digital ecosystems completely capture it? Every swipe is a choice, every scroll is a choice, and every conversation is a choice. If this explainer made you think a little differently about loneliness, technology, and modern relationships, please jump into the comments and share your thoughts. Have apps and algorithms quietly damaged the way we connect? Your perspective really matters to us. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive into the forces shaping our world, be sure to subscribe for more explainers just like this one. Because the most important conversations begin when we finally stop scrolling long enough to actually have them.